Hi, Judy. Hi, Judy. Can you hear me? All right. Thank you very much. You can keep the music completely down now. This one now. Anyway, good morning, everyone. Trust you're doing well. You're welcome to Leadership Workshop this month of May. Wow, it's the 5th month already in 2026. We're grateful for life and for all that God has helped us, is helping us with in this season. So today we'll be talking about, again, please invite your friends. You have a lot of people who had registered. Get them to join in as much as quickly as possible. Like I said, it's a leadership workshop, and we want to have you all participate. So we'll just go straight into today's session. But before that, we'll just say a very quick prayer. Thank you, Lord, for today. Thank you for your mercy, your kindness, your love that is new every morning. It's another opportunity to learn. Lord Jesus, we ask that you help us, give us wisdom, understanding, insight. May it not just be every other kind of session, but may it be one that transforms us, improves our work in the energy sector. And we ask that you take charge of today's session in the mighty name of Jesus. We receive wisdom, we receive insight and understanding. In Jesus' mighty name, we have prayed. Amen. Amen. Okay, so I will be reading out. I'll be introducing our guest for today. Yeah, I'll be introducing our guest for today. He is someone that I've got to know him. He's someone who has very experience within the energy sector, and I'll go on to read his profile now. So as I do so, please let's get ready to welcome him very excitedly. All right. So are we able to project his profile, or I can just go ahead and read so that we can maximize our time? So, ladies and gentlemen, our speaker for today is Mr. Kingsley Kemneme. And he is, again, like I just like to say, we bring you experts within the field who have great experience in the topic for discussion. So Mr. Kingsley Kemneme is a seasoned communications and business development professional with over a decade of experience across Nigeria's electricity supply industry, spanning electricity distribution and generation. He currently serves as a business development and communication executive at Marbon Limited. If you know Marbon is a company that manages, is it Kainji now? I can't remember. I know it's Kainji. I think it's Kainji, one of the hydro plants anyway in Nigeria. Yes, where he drives, you tell us when he comes, where he drives strategic growth initiatives across hydropower generation, energy solutions, and emerging market opportunities. Kingsley previously served as senior and high impact roles in the power distribution segment. He was also once at Yola Electricity Distribution Company, where he built and managed the corporate communication function. And he also worked at the Kano Electricity Distribution Company. Wow. He also led and operated at both strategic and execution levels, serving as the assistant general manager and MD and technical assistant to the MD and CEO. But beyond corporate roles, Kingsley also contributes to industry capacity building as a mentorship facilitator at the Comms Avenue, where he supports the development of emerging communication professionals. He brings strong expertise in crisis communication, very critical, stakeholder management, change communication, and strategic messaging. And it's very vast when it comes to translating complex energy and technical concepts into clear compelling and narratives that influence stakeholders, drive alignment, and unlock growth. So everyone, ladies and gentlemen, join me. Make sure you clap with your emojis, right? In welcoming Mr. Kingsley Nkemneme as he takes us to the workshop today on effective communication and stakeholder management. You're welcome, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from wherever you're joining us. And thank you for the wonderful introduction. Before I go further, I shared my slide with Ruth, so I want her to put it up. Yeah, thank you. That's amazing. Thank you very much. So let me start. I'm deeply glad you made the time to join us on this very important topic, effective stakeholder communication and relationship management, and what I call the power of diplomacy, which is very, very key. And I want to start with a confession. Because, of course, as a communication professional, I love telling stories, right? So I once watched a brilliant designed project worth a lot of money, months of planning, come to a complete standstill. It stalled because one senior government official felt out of the loop. One person who never received a phone call felt sidelined. And that feeling cost the project 6 months and a great deal of trust. Now, here's what struck me most. The project manager was technically sound. He knew every number, every risk factor, every time. But he had no idea that stakeholder management was where the real project lived. Now, this story is not unique. It happens every single day across energy companies, financial institutions, government agencies, NGOs, boardrooms around the world. And it is entirely preventable. That's why we're here today. Now, so let's go to the next slide, right? No, the one before the outline. Sorry. Slide 2. Oh, thank you. So let me be direct with you, and this might be uncomfortable to hear. If you're in this room or on the screen, it means you've already demonstrated technical competence. You know your field, you have the qualification, the experience, and the expertise. That is not in question. But here is the leadership reality of 2026 and beyond. Technical know-how will not determine who leads, who gets promoted, whose project gets funded, and whose ideas get implemented. What determines all that is your ability to navigate the human terrain, the political landscape, the invisible architecture of relationships that sit underneath every organizational chart. Now, any manager, team lead, or executive who masters stakeholder diplomacy controls the pace, controls the narrative, and will possibly control the outcome of most initiatives, even before the formal meeting is ever called. Now, think about that for a moment before the first meeting, you've already have your goals, have the table. That means the real work happens in corridors, in informal calls, in those small touch points that most professionals ignore. Now, this section is about that work and how to do it brilliantly. Now, I'll also give you another story of two brilliant engineers. Let's call them Amanda and David. They are both technically brilliant, both put forward proposal for a major infrastructure expansion. Amanda sent her proposal by email with a 40-slide deck. She waits. David, 3 weeks before the formal presentation, calls the CFO for a 15-minute informal conversation. He sits down with the head of the community relations over a coffee. He sends the regulatory director a one-page summary tailored specifically to her concerns. When the proposals are presented, of course, the room, you already know David's idea. They have already processed their objections. Privately, Amanda's proposal runs into 3 hours of questions. David gets his proposal approved in a few minutes. Now you look at it, same quality of idea, completely different outcome. So what David did, that is stakeholder diplomacy. I want to think of someone in your organization or your industry who seems to get things done faster than everyone else. And this is not because they are smarter, but because people seem to already be on their side. That person has mastered something, and today we are going to name it, understand it, and give you the tools to do the same. So over the course of the few minutes that we're going to be together, we'll build a practical toolkit you can deploy. And when I mean you can deploy, it's not something you have to deploy next quarter or next month. It's something you can deploy effective immediately. So let's go to the next slide. Next slide, please. So our journey today, here is how we're going to spend the next minutes together. I want you to see the map as you know where we're going, right? Who is your stakeholder? Very important. The high cost of poor communication and why this matters in the workplace, right? Poor frameworks, crisis communication and influence, action commitment, and then that's the end of the section. So by the end of this section, you will not just understand stakeholder communication, you will have a personal action plan that makes Monday morning different from the last one. So we should be in slide 4, sorry. Yes. Now, let me ask this question. Who is your stakeholder? Do you even know who your stakeholder is? Let us begin at the foundation before we communicate strategically. We need to answer one fundamental question. Who are we actually talking about? And I want to challenge a common assumption many professionals, when they hear the word stakeholder, they immediately think upward. Oh, it's the board, or the CEO, or the regulators. And yes, these are stakeholders, but the real answer is far broader and far more powerful. Trust me. Sometimes even your competitor is a stakeholder. A stakeholder is anyone who is affected by what you do or who can affect what you do. That definition changes everything, right? So looking at the 4 stakeholder groups, the communities where you have the residents, leaders, and the group affected by your work, right? This is often the most underestimated group. And again, in most cases, is the most powerful. Trust me, for someone that has worked within the energy sector, specifically the electricity space, thankfully, looking at the recent trend with the most of these renewable energy companies, you can see that they understand stakeholder engagement, stakeholder relationship better. But if you go back to when it was mostly the grid connection, disco operation, Genco operation, in most cases, because they have this strong feeling that, oh, electricity, it's the operations, it's monopoly, and then stakeholder, the communities, they really don't prioritize them, right? Because they feel, oh, whether you like it or not, you have to use electricity. You have to come to me. But things are beginning to change, thankfully. And again, we have the regulators and government. These are policy makers, agencies, public officials that shape your operating environment. We have investors and management, decision makers, and then we also have the internal team. Now, notice what is in the last category, the internal teams, your colleagues. The operations person who has to implement your strategy, the finance team who's approve your needs or your funds, the communication team who will carry your message. They are stakeholders too, and they are the ones most likely forgotten. Trust me, during my time working in all the spaces I have, one of the key stakeholders I was able to map internally and hold there is the finance team. I don't know if it's the same for others, but I hold them very, very close because I know that they are very important in achieving my KPIs because they have to approve the fund, So it's very, very important. Let's go to the next slide. Slide 5. Now I want to share two numbers with you, and I want you to really sit with them. 50% project failed due to poor communication. That's according to the Project Management Institute. And they also say that 47% higher return on investment delivered by teams with a strong stakeholder alignment. Now, in any domain of professional life, a 70% failure rate will cause a crisis response. We will redesign the process, investigate the root cause, and allocate resources to fix it. But in communication, we often just accept. And 40% higher return on investment, not even a new technology that you deploy or from restructuring, just from strict stakeholder alignment. That is quite remarkable. But I want to push further than this statistics that we have here. Because the real cost of miscommunication is not just financial. Think about the career damage. The project leader whose credibility is destroyed not by competence, but by a misread relationship. Think about the reputational damage to organizations that handle a community crisis badly. Think about the talented professional who is repeatedly overlooked for leadership because their emotional intelligence doesn't match their technical brilliance. And I'm telling you, I have seen this happen. This is not just theoretical. I've seen this happen in practice. So misaligned community communication and stakeholder management has repeatedly stalled multi-million naira projects. And trust me, sometimes we've seen it. It's not due to the capacity or the technical prowess, but broken trust. Cost sometimes is never financial. So, I also like us to ask just a few questions. And I just want you to be honest. And this is something you can just note down on your own. How would you honestly rate your organization current stakeholder communication effectiveness? Just you can, on a scale of 1 to 5, you can just rate them, and just take a note. So the good thing is that everything we're going to cover today is practical and is immediately applicable. And we can build on that score. So now that we understand the cause, let's talk about the solution. And the solution lives in 4 pillars. Next slide, is the slide moving?
Yes, what slide do you need on? We have slide 6 on now.
Okay. Oh, amazing. Yeah, that's correct. So it wasn't moving from my end, so I thought.
Yeah, I think we even lost you for it. I don't know if it was my own network or not, but we stopped hearing you for some time.
Oh, I see. Maybe it's network, I guess.
Okay, well, we can hear you now. Please go on.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, thank you. So thank you. Now we're going to look at the core framework, the pillars for strategic communication and stakeholder engagement. Now we're in the heart of our section, and the 4 pillars, these are not abstract principles. Each one is a practical framework with a specific tool you can apply immediately. Pillar 1 is strategic communication. And the first and most fundamental shift I want you to make is this. Stop communicating with information as your primary goal, but rather start communicating with influence at your goal. Information is what you know. Influence is what happens when someone receives your information and decides to act, align, or advocate. And that's where we have this framework, the race framework, right? So this is where you research, you align, you communicate, and then you evaluate. And the golden rule I want you to write down is know their why before you share your what. So most professional communication, they do the opposite. We spend 90% of our time clarifying what we want. It's all about our proposal, our idea, our request, and almost no time understanding what the other person is actually trying to achieve. Trust me, when you flip that ratio, everything will change for you. Everything will change. The next pillar 2, is talking about the stakeholder engagement, and there's what we call the power interest grid. Now, strategic communication is how you speak. Stakeholder engagement is about who you speak to and how often. These are two different disciplines. Engagement is not just about a broadcast. It is a two-way relationship. And like all relationship, it requires intentional investment. Now, the power interest grid sometimes is called the 2x2 matrix, helps you identify who to manage closely, who to keep satisfied, and who to monitor. So the stakeholder you are not mapping or the stakeholder you're not managing is the one who will derail your initiative at the final approval gate. Now, just let's talk about this for just a minute. Think about your stakeholders, right? Or where are you spending 80% of your time and energy? Most leaders discover that they are spending too much time in the keep satisfied quadrant, where you have high power and low interest stakeholders who make them feel important, and not enough time in the manage closely quadrant where real decisions are taken. So let's go to the next slide. Slide 8. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Just slide 8 now.
Oh, awesome. So here we're going to talk about the agile communications and communication reading by tier. A lot of people are familiar with what agile is. Mostly, if you the tech space, it's commonly used in the tech space. Agile framework, product owner, product management, project management, and all that. Now, I want to introduce you to something that transformed how I think about communication, and it comes from the world of software development, but it applies just as powerful to executive leadership. It is the concept of agile communication. Traditional communication treats alignment as a destination. You send an update, you give a presentation, you write a report, and then you assume that if the information was good, the alignment would follow. That's not true. It doesn't happen like that. This is a broadcast model. I even call it this as an old-fashioned model, and it's fundamentally broken. Agile communication treats alignment as an ongoing operating state. Yes, that's what it is. It is never finished. It is continuously maintained through short cycles of feedback and recalibration. Now, if you notice the step 4, that's adjusting, framing, timing, or messaging, it's never your core position. This is critical. The most agile communicators do not change what they believe. They change how belief is experienced by different audience. If we also look at the 3 most important, very important failures that we should avoid, in most cases, we have the broadcast and forget trap. So you send a comprehensive update thinking that you've done all is needed, it does not constitute stakeholder management. Communication without a feedback mechanism is completely monologue, and monologues do not build an alignment. Ask yourself, do I have a structured way to hear from stakeholders? Not just to speak to them. And when I talk about stakeholders, we have to go back again to the stakeholders that involve all areas of your operations, right? When I used to have these radio programs, when at the distribution level, you have to interface consistently with customers. Almost every week, you're on the radio, you're on the TV, you're on different platforms, reaching out to customers, reaching out to regulators, reaching out to community leaders and all that. One thing I did that I ensured was very key for me. For every program, for every town hall meetings, for every engagement I do, I ensured that I have my stakeholders that would specifically just pay attention and hear what the conversations, the engagement, and then they give me a very objective feedback. So it's not just about having your message and then do your engagement or do your town hall meeting. You don't care whether what the message was meant to achieve. Did you achieve it or not? So not every piece of stakeholder feedback requires a strategic response. Some reactions are emotional, some are temporary, or not even representative of the broader group. So you need to calibrate your sensitivity and respond to signals, not reactions. Confusing silence with consent. This is very, very important because you have where you have engagement and you have the stakeholders that won't just say anything. Quiet stakeholders are often most dangerous. The absence of objection is not an agreement. So in most cases, it is a deferred resistance and accumulating pressure. So if someone is not engaging with your communication, that is not a neutral sign. You need to investigate it and recalibrate. So the next one, we're going to talk about the communication reading by stakeholder tier. Let me introduce you to one of the most practical frameworks in this section. That's the communication reading model. This is something I work with. So this is a framework. You have a cadence by tier. Very, very important. You know how in the banking sector, in the financial sector, some of the banks, you have tier 1 banks, tier 2 banks, and all those things, So in your communication rhythm, where you have your stakeholders by tier, using this framework of cadence by tier, you look at your tier 1 should always be high power, high impact. And you should ensure that you have a monthly executive briefing or a bilateral pre-meetings before any formal decisions. These people should never hear critical news for the first time in a meeting that you've called. The second tier is a high power and medium impact. And these are where you have bi-weekly structured update with a two-way feedback mechanism, with a frequency enough to stay visible, that it doesn't have to erode any authority. While the tier 3, you have all the others tier, where you just have weekly calls, communication, you have an open door channels, you keep them informed, and also make sure they feel included. It is very important to know that surprise is the enemy of alignment. If your stakeholder learns critical news from any other source than you have already lost control of that relationship. And I'll give you an example of, let's say, some of my stakeholders in my job, in my role, are the media people, right? The journalists, the energy reporters, and all that. And sometimes when a news and information, they always like to be the first to break out a news or to tell a story or to have their organization be the first to share any news. So sometimes because of the relationship you build over time with this group of people, when a news breaks out and it doesn't come from them, they begin to call you and they begin to tell you their disappointment that, oh, something like this happened. You didn't inform us. You didn't call us. You didn't do that. And what happens next? You begin to lose control of that relationship. And these are critical stakeholders in your operations. And what will they do next? Wherever they feel that they would get that information ahead of time, that's where they will begin to align with. So the most powerful communication I want to emphasize happens before the meetings. Bilateral conversations with tier one stakeholders ensure you never enter a room without already knowing the outcome. So pre-meeting intelligence, it's not manipulation, it is leadership. So think about your communication reading with your most important stakeholder right now. When did you last have a bilateral conversation? When I mean bilateral conversation, it doesn't have to be when it's just a formal meeting and that's when you want to reach out to them. It doesn't have to be when you just have to send an official email. That's when you communicate with them. But just, a genuine one-to-one touch point. This is one of the key skills that has actually kept me going. And I want to tell you, if your answer is I can't remember, that is your action. This is one of your action items from today. I want to be direct. Most miscommunication crises are not about the crisis event. They are actually about the relationship deficit that existed before the crisis. The investment in consistent, tiered communication is what prevents emergencies. So we are going to look at pillar 3, which is the relationship management. And this is looking at it from a transformational point of view. Now we are moving into the territory that, in my experience, separates truly exceptional leaders from good ones. And it is the most human element of everything we discussed today. So it is a shift from transactional relationship to transformational ones. A transactional relationship sounds like, oh, I need something from you. Here is what I'm offering in return. Yeah, it is efficient. It is clean. It is completely fragile. So a transformational relationship sounds different. It is built on genuine mutual understanding, consistent investment over time, and the trust that comes from being reliable, from being honest, and from being transparent. So this is where you have the framework, which is the trust equation. Reliability, intimacy, self-orientation. And some people will be wondering, oh, self-orientation. Yes. And you engage with stakeholders, right? When you lower your self-orientation, trust me, they higher the trust. Based on my experience, right? When people feel you're primarily focused on your own agenda, then the trust comes because they feel they are not heard, they feel they are not important. So the single most powerful leveler is when you engage in stakeholder engagement and when you're trying to resolve crises or when trying to even prevent a crisis. Always ensure you reduce the self-orientation with the stakeholders you're engaging. And I want you to think about something you trust deeply in your professional life. I'm not talking about someone you respect, someone you genuinely trust, and ask yourself, which of these four elements do they embody? I guarantee you it is all four. I guarantee that their self-orientation, their focus on their own agenda over yours is low. So take for instance, let's say we have two approaches to the same relationship. Maybe we have a regulatory affairs manager who had two approaches to her relationship with key government officials. And let's say her predecessor had treated the relationship in a transactional way, in a transactional format. Contact only when approval was needed, meetings only when required, communicate only when there was an agenda. So she decided to do something different. She invested in the relationship when nothing was needed. And this is something I do a lot, knowing too well that we, in the energy sector, we work in a regulated, well-regulated environment. And these regulators are not going anywhere anytime soon. In fact, with the new Electricity Act, they are even coming closer to you. So you have to deal with it. So, and this person understood the official priorities, her department's pressure, personal career aspiration, and they continue to communicate. You build that relationship, connected with top leaders, ask about industry trends, and build a genuine mutual relationship. To think about your three most important stakeholder relationships. For each one, ask yourself, am I primarily extracting value from this relationship or am I primarily contributing to it? Very, very important questions. And trust me, when you ask yourself these questions, the answer would determine how you manage your relationship moving forward. So slide 12, pillar 4, which talks about crisis communication. Let's talk about the moments when everything you have built of managed is tested. That's the crisis, right? Because here's the truth about crisis. They do not create stakeholder problems. They reveal the ones that already exist. A crisis is a magnifying glass on your relationship capital. So if your stakeholder relationship are built on transparency and trust, then a crisis is difficult, but survivable. If they are built on transactional interactions and selective communication, trust me, a crisis can be catastrophic. So there are three principles I want to anchor into your practice, and they are not complex, but they are violated every single day by organizations, around the world. Now, these three principles of crisis communication, I'm sure we've heard a lot about this when we talk about crisis communication. We've heard about, speed. Now, speed beats perfection when it comes to the three principles of crisis communication. A timely, imperfect response is more valuable than delayed, polished one. Silence is never neutral in a crisis, and every hour you're quiet, others are feeling that narrative. And I'm sure this is something that is practical, and we've seen it happen over and over and over again. By the time you delay, by the time you waste time, by the time you come out with your polished, well-crafted response, it will be hard for you to change the narrative. So the question is not, is our statement perfect? The question is, can we live with our stakeholders hearing nothing for another 24 hours? The second one is transparency that is built on trust. So it is very important to acknowledge what you know and also acknowledge what you don't know. Acknowledge what you are doing about it, honestly, including about uncertainty. This is your most powerful communication tool. So nothing destroys trust faster than being caught managing information. Nothing builds it faster than a radical honesty. The next one is empathy, which comes first, facts second. So people cannot process information if they do not first feel they are heard. So it's always important to lead with empathy. We understand your concern. We hear you. This matters to us because it matters to you. Then and only then you present the facts. Next slide, which is influencing complex stakeholder environments. Now, you talk about influence, and then you talk about authority on the other hand, right? There's one more dimension I want to add to everything we have covered, and it is perhaps the most sophisticated and the most necessary leadership skills of the modern era. Influence without authority. In a complex organization and cross-sector environment, formal power is rarely sufficient. You will encounter situations where you need to align a government agency, a community leader, an investor, and your internal team, and you have no direct authority over them. This is where stakeholder diplomacy becomes your primary leadership currency, right? The 5 stakeholder ecosystem, the framework. You have the government, the community, the regulators, investors, and your internal team. Each group speaks different language. It's very important. You cannot use the same language for all your stakeholders. And it is motivated by different values. So influence without authority means learning each language fluently and code switching with confidence. So the leader who can hold all 5 of these relationships simultaneously and translate each group concerns into language that others can hear. That is the leader who makes the impossible happen. So let me ask the question, in your current role, which of these 5 groups do you most naturally connect with? And which one do you most consciously avoid? And why? That answer is your growth edge. Trust me. Slide 14. So here we're going to be bringing it all together, the 4 pillars, right? Let me bring everything together with clarity and brevity. The 4 pillars we have explored today are not independent. They work as an integrated system. So they are not independent. You have to ensure that you integrate all the 4 pillars together to be able to have an effective communication and stakeholder relationship management. Speaking with intention, not just information. Always know their why before you share your what. Use the RACE framework: research, align, communicate, evaluate. Stakeholder engagement. Engagement is a two-way relationship. Mark your stakeholders on the power interest grid. Very important and very easy to do. Prioritize, invest, and involve deliberately. Move from transactional to transformational. The trust equation is your formula. Credibility, reliability, intimacy, divided by self-orientation. Trust is your professional currency. And the 4th pillar, which is a crisis communication, which we just talked about: speed, transparency, and empathy. In that order. Every time. Crises do not create stakeholder problems. They reveal the ones that already existed. And communication is not just what you say. It is what they hear and trust. So it's very important if you can just note this down, because it changes how you approach every message, every meeting, every conversation. So the next slide, which is slide 15, we're in the final moments of our time together here on this section, and I have one request for you. I think this is a request, a single request that would determine whether this section was, truly transformational. And I want you to write something down, right? Because the research on behavior change is ambiguous. The professional who leave a workshop with a specific written commitment are 14 times more likely to follow through than those who leave only with good intentions. So just a minute, just note this down. What I want you to do is, one stakeholder you are going to map this week. Identify one stakeholder relationship that needs more clarity. Place them on the power interest grid. Write out your approach, frequency, format, who should deliver the message, and what their why is. The next one is one conversation I will approach differently. I want you to identify a difficult, stalled, or avoided conversation. Apply the RACE framework before you begin. Research their perspective first. Align your message to their priorities. Then communicate and then evaluate the response. The third one I want you to do is one relationship that you want to strengthen. So pick one transactional relationship that could become transformational. We have a lot of people that we have constant, our work is intertwined, right? For example, in the energy sector, there is no, you cannot do without your regulators. I'm just giving this example. We have other stakeholders as well, but this is something that it's well connected to our daily operations. You cannot do without your regulators. How do you communicate with your regulators? Is it only when you have formal meetings or when they send for reports or when they send letters that they will come for, visitation or something? What is your relationship strength? So pick one and see how you can change that and make that conversation more transformational. So we've come to the last slide, which is the closing remark. And before I let you go, I have some impact statement I want to leave you with, these 3 sentences that I hope you carry far beyond today. The quality of your leadership is determined by the quality of your relationships. Your technical skills can get you in the room. Yes, agreed. Your relationship determines what you build while you are there. And I've seen this play out. And I'm sure most of you will agree with me that you have also experienced some of these scenarios. The second one, the future of African energy leadership is not built in boardrooms alone. It is built one relationship at a time, in communities, in corridors, in conversations that most people dismiss as small. Every stakeholder interaction is a brick in something larger than you can currently see. And the third one, the one I want to echo one final time, the closing principle. Communication is not what you say. I will keep saying that. It is what they hear and what they trust. You now have the frameworks, the language, and the awareness to close that gap. So the question I want to ask is, what will you do with it? So thank you for your energy. Thank you for your honesty. Thank you for bringing your full professional time into this room today. The conversation here, I want to believe that it will ripple far beyond this section. And I look forward to hearing about your progress. And I believe genuinely that the best of your stakeholder leadership is still ahead of you.
Wow. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank you so much. In fact, there's no doubt about the fact that you're a communication expert, because you're taking it just in bits and in pieces, ensuring that we absorb it was very unique. For some of us, we just keep going on and on and on and on. But thank you. I didn't just learn from what you said. I also learned from your manner of presentation. The pace, the tone, and all. I don't know if anyone can relate. But thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kingsley, for this insightful presentation. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very
So we're going
much.
to take just two questions. Our time is fast spent. Just two questions. Very brief, straight to the point. What, because I will see share just a few thoughts on it. Very brief question. If you have, can you just raise your hands? But while we are at it, while I'm still waiting for the questions, I learned a lot from this, because when it's these stakeholders, let's assume maybe you're not even at the level where you're interacting with government yet, but one of the stakeholders that he identified is your team members, like your office. How do you manage people? Are you just, one of the things that stood out for me is transactional. Like sometimes the only time you reach out to people is when you need something, and which shouldn't be the case, right? It's important to build relationship, checking on them, know how they are doing. That's what he means by by that transformational. It has to be intimate, it has to be intentional. I know it takes time, it takes a lot of effort, but the truth of the matter is that if you do that consistently, like he said, during crisis is a revelation of the strength of your relationship capital. When crisis shows up, it shows how strong your relationship is, right? If all you have is transactional, good morning, I need you to review this, that's all, you find out that when crisis shows up, it'll be very difficult for you to get your way through. But when you build relationship between just transaction, I know a lot of people say this workspace, I do my work, I go home, but hello, particularly those that are critical to your rising in that company, in that organization, build good relationship. You don't have to like their face. No, one of the things I also learned, relationship is not about whether I like them or not. What do you want to achieve, right? And then know the kind of get you where you need to be. Okay, I think I see one hand up. Fire me, please go ahead quickly.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so sorry. I'm around my siblings here, so I'm so sorry if there's any background noise. Thank you so much, sir, for those insightful words and teaching. It's really actually went a long way. So I really wanted to know if there's room to learn more from you, especially, and if you are also open to mentorship programs, or if you have anyone coming up, so as to also be able to learn more and grow communication wise. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you. I think yes. Open to this is something I just want to give you. If you check when my profile was read, you'll find out that I also do mentorship program. In fact, free mentorship program. I am a member of the Communication Avenue platform, where I offer mentorship program. I also a part of the Gepa mentorship
Yes,
program that is ongoing. Exactly. Yes. So you as long as you reach out to Madam Chine, trust me, I'm always reachable. I'm open to any collaboration. I'm open to any conversation. This is what I love doing. This is what I've been doing for over 13 years. So yes, please feel free to reach out. I'm sure Chine will want to add more.
Yes, thank you so much. And exactly. So apart, we have the Gepa mentorship program, and particularly if you belong to, what track is that now, Ruth? I think it's a track on project management and project management HR. Yes, that's where we have Kingsley as one of our mentors. Well, I know the mentorship program is closed for this session, but we should have one more before the year ends, so you can join it if you fall within that track. Yeah, and of course, you can look out for the other mentorship programs you have. And most importantly, one of the projects we're working on this year at Gepa is to have what we call the Energy Leadership Academy. And what we're trying to achieve with that is an online platform where people can go and learn about the softer aspects of what we do. You see a lot of training on engineering, on technical things, but things like the softer issues like stakeholder management, communication, how do you manage a community, how do you manage government, those things you don't see it anywhere, right? Things like how do I move from a starter in the sector to a C-suite role? How do I what are the things I need to know to start up a business? These are very unusual, like very uncommon courses or things that you would find. So those are the areas that we're looking to build courses around, so that beyond even these sessions, you have a place where you can actually learn. right? So watch out for that, and we, by God's grace, we trust God that we would be able to build, because it take us a lot to build a platform. But we trust God for funding and everything that we need to get it up. And yes, Kingsley is one of our facilitators for the Energy Leadership Academy, so you can watch out for his course when it comes on board. All right, thank you very much. Any other question? I'll take one more. I think I saw a hand. Ido, quickly, please. There we go.
All right, thank you very much, Chine. My name is Idowita Daniel. Awesome session, Mr. Kingsley. So my question is on trust. So I want to ask, can trust be broken? And if broken, how feasible is it to be fixed? And the second one is, personally, has there been any time where you had trust issues with any stakeholders, and how were you able to navigate it to get back on track? Thank you.
Yeah,
Sorry.
thank you thank you very much, Ido, for your question. This is a very brilliant question, and I tell you, yes, trust can absolutely be broken. It often shatters through lies, betrayal, broken promises, or consistent neglect. See, let me be specific this time around. Working in the distribution side of the value chain, right, where you interface constantly with customers, with stakeholders, with your customers, with end users, and all that. Trust me, there are a lot of times that there's an issue on ground. They come to you, you have your meetings, you have your engagement, and then you say, oh, we are going to replace your transformer in the next 2 weeks, right? That 2 weeks turns out to be 2 months. It turns out to be 3 months. It turns out to be 6 months. Trust has been broken, whether you like it or not, right? So how do you fix this? Immediately, you don't need to be defensive. When you have to show empathy, you have to acknowledge that you have broken that trust. You must clearly admit that, and then you have to begin to radically show transparency. No hidden information. You have to. We've had cases that maybe the approval for that new transformer or something is taking time, is passing through a lot of decks. I am telling you, we've had situations that we have to carry the community leaders, and then they follow us. We say, okay, your paper is here. You see it. See your paper. It's here. It's going to move to the next stage. They see it, and once you begin to do that, they begin to trust you again. They begin to understand that there are other factors that made you break that trust, right? So that is how you're able to build this trust. So fixing trust is not erasing history. It's not building a new reliable track record. Some relationship never fully restore to the previous level of trust, but you can build a different, more honest, and sometimes especially with a lot of abuse, and all those things. And trust me, customers will tell you all sorts kind of thing, but you have to understand their pain. It has to come from their pain point. So I hope I was able to answer.
Yes, you were. Thank you so much for that. And the truth of the matter is that that trust issue, I had a colleague some time back that, when she joined the office, and I'm trying to say this also from a more practical office environment scenario, right? When she joined in the office, she was really struggling. She wasn't really doing so good work. And everybody just had this initial feel like, this person is not good at all. So it's almost similar to what you just asked to do. She was like a breach of trust scenario. Now, later she said she was beginning to put so much effort trying to change. But when she approached me, she was like, Chine, I noticed that everybody already just has this mindset that I cannot do good work. And it was difficult for her to change it, right? I mean, we had a conversation and I could see the struggle because there's this already preset premonition in the heart of everyone. And one of the things we agreed to do was to meet like the senior in the team and tell the person, I know when I joined in, I wasn't doing so well. but I want to let you know that I have changed. I want you to give me a chance. So she actually had a very open conversation with the boss, and the boss was like, okay, yes, I admit this. And so when that conversation was had, it didn't completely erase the issue of the trust, but it just had a what then happened was that the boss began to give her some level of space, like, a benefit of doubt. Maybe that's the perfect word. All right. So trust can be, tampered with, but it can also be rebuilt. It might take time, but can eventually be rebuilt. Okay. And the other thing I also want to say is, and particularly in our office environment, because this has happened to me, on what Mr. Ikemneme talked about on crisis management. Like, it's very critical. Sometimes when things happen in the office, you want, okay, let me go and call this person and ask them what I will do. 1, 2, 3. Usually, it's always good to act immediately. You might not have all the answers immediately, but at least just acknowledge, okay, this thing went wrong, I take responsibility and I'm working on it. As simple as that can help you douse the fire. It's like when you see a fire burning and you're going about to go and seek opinion before you pour water on it, right? There are certain things you need to do immediately. So when you send a wrong email or whatever, just manage it immediately. I remember when I was dealing with a very troublesome client at one point, and I knew this client was going to report me to my boss. Before he even went, I called my boss already. I said, see, this is the challenge I'm having. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This guy may call you to report me. I just wanted to give you a heads up. And that, in fact, that was a lifesaver. Just an hour, it wasn't long after that they called him, sent me a long email about all the things I have done. But yes, my boss was concerned, but because I had given him, that's what he said about pre-meeting before meetings, always communicate.
Yes.
So by the time my boss saw the email, like, okay, Chine, I finally got in the email he told me about. So what is happening? So it wasn't, my boss was able to deal with that situation a lot better. He managed my own reputation, and I didn't have to allow the client to go to report first. So honestly, this is also where the wisdom of God comes in. Trust me, because sometimes the situation can be so overwhelming that you might just get all down and just depressed and all of that. But you need to know how to take decisions immediately. Right. And secondly, once you had taking the decision, take time to talk. Be very honest. If you have done something wrong, own up to it. Like, okay, I know I didn't send this thing well. I didn't do this thing well. And then, of course, begin to manage the client. So I'll just answer these last questions. Leader, how do you handle situations where team members rarely give you feedback, except you constantly reach out? It has become exhausting. What's the best way to improve this? Well, I'll just share my personal experience. And so the thing is, feedbacks are good. I used to be afraid of feedbacks before because I didn't know what anybody was going to think. But I've come to discover that feedback is not an attack on my personality. Feedback is an opportunity to improve, to get better. So if you're in an environment where feedback doesn't come normally, and the truth of the matter, particularly if you're working in a high-pressured environment like mine, sometimes you don't get feedback on the go. Keep asking. That's the truth. Keep asking. Right after every project or every work, I will ask my supervisor, okay, this work I did, how did I do it? Was it okay? What areas do I need to improve? Right? Keep asking. And a time will come when I believe that they will become familiar with you asking, and they will naturally just give the feedback to you. I don't know if Kingsley, if you have anything to add to that, but that's what I would say. Keep asking for the feedback. Don't get exhausted. And please make sure that once you get the feedback, you're improving on it. Because what gets supervisors tired is they give you feedback and you are still doing exactly the same thing the next time. It's like, what's the point? So when they give you feedback, take it well, try to implement and make the changes so that they actually see that you are growing from their feedback. Okay. Yes, Kingsley, you want to add something before we go?
Yeah, you've absolutely covered everything, right? Nothing different from what I'm going to add. It's just, almost the same experience, right? So, but sometimes it's always good to share from one's experience.
Yeah, video is on.
When I go for radio programs, believe me, I ensure that in my office, so I have a team. Before I go for the program, I'll tell them, look, I'm having a program by so time. I want you to listen to this program. So when I go for the program, finish the program, everything goes on well, because it's a live radio programs. Some questions will just come, some conversation that you're not prepared for. They will ask you a question. When I get back to the office, the first thing I always do is, did you listen to the program? Yes. Please tell me, how was it? How did it go? Was I able to answer this question well? What Where did I, and they always give me very objective feedback. And from there, I build on it. So that's why in my presentation, I used the agile framework. I mentioned about that, ensuring that we are not monologue in our conversation, in our processes. We try to make sure that we apply the agile framework where we continue to learn, feedback, recalibrate, re-engage, and then a continuous cycle. As you follow that pattern, improvement would happen on its own by default. So that's what I want to add. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. So everyone, I hope we learned. This will be recorded and we have the session eventually. We'll share the link once it's ready. And so we'll go on now to take our chant and community pledge, and then we would be on our way. Judy, please. Yes, if you're on the Gepa platform, please share your learnings after the session on the group. Or like want to hear what you learned, what stood out for you, what will you be doing differently. Build relationships, guys. Build relationship is infrastructure. Well, please, can we have this chance? Time is fast spent already. Build relationships are infrastructure. You know how you need infrastructure for things to make things happen. Build it. I'm very intentional about building relationships everywhere I go. You never can tell where you need them. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's take our community chant together. We are excellent men and women, empowered by the Spirit of God to solve energy problems in Africa with the works of our hands. We provide creative solutions, produce witty inventions, and divine strategies that bring glory to God and advance His kingdom on earth. Next, our pledge. Yeah, I pledge to take 2 hours, 40 minutes, a third of my day in deep communion with God in prayer and the word. I pledge to be a person of integrity, standing for what is right wherever I find myself. I pledge to be bold about my faith in Jesus and to be a channel of His love everywhere I go. I pledge to be diligent and demonstrate excellence in everything my hands find to do. I pledge to stand strong in faith in the face of adversity, and I do not give in to challenges until my victory comes. And finally, I pledge to promote the growth of Africa's energy sector and support the expansion of God's kingdom with the works of my hands. So everyone, let's go keep our pledge. Let's shine the light, be the best at what you do, and watch out for our programs as we go on. The conference of Energy and Faith and Energy Conferences, we have started planning. It's slated for November. Let's pray along, plan along, and partner along to make it happen as well. Okay, we'll keep in touch with you. Bye. Have a great weekend.
I wanna give my life for something that'll last forever. Oh, I delight to do your will.